Hi guys, downstairs in the basement today, and I've got the rock tumbler going. You can see it's on day 4 there, so look out for that video coming soon. I just built this little platform for my Bowflex so that I can do leg presses, and it was a really small project, so I didn't bother filming it. Maybe one day I'll do a quick video of some of the stuff I've done, modifications to it. There's the old wooden bandsaw. So I'm down here in the basement and I'm looking at doing another project, and one of the reasons why I thought of this is I was just spray painting that platform, and I use a lot of spray paint. You can see I've got a lot of colors here and I saved them for a long time. They're quite old, and if you shake them often enough they seem to work pretty good. But that brings me to my latest project. I really hate shaking spray paint, and when they're really old like that they need a lot of shaking, and I've got this guy here that needed some good shaking. Okay, so my first attempt at a paint shaker is this little sketch that I did just on my phone, just kind of brainstorming while sitting around watching TV. So I tried to do this just half-assed with no real measurements or anything, using a jigsaw. This is an older jigsaw and it doesn't have a speed control on it, so when you hit the button you get full speed, and it was one short stroke, too really aggressive. My god, this thing has a lot of torque, and it just shook like crazy, and it was kind of scary, and it just started breaking things, and I didn't think this was going to be a good option. So I went to the drawing board and actually drew something up in AutoCAD and tried to design it so it would actually work, and I'm looking to use another one of those little windshield wiper motors. These are cheap, reliable, and should be a lot easier to work with than the jigsaw. So I'm going to lay out all the parts that I have designed here, cut them up, and start building this thing. Okay, so I've got a few parts I'm going to lay out on plywood. Hopefully that's going to be strong enough. It's fairly light, so I'm hoping it won't be too much load on the motor, but I imagine we'll burn up some shafts on this one here. So I've got a full tank of coffee here, and I think it's time that I take a day and clean up my workbench because it's really piling up with sawdust and different projects and stuff. But it's more fun to do other stuff. Okay, so I've got my parts cut out here on the bandsaw. Now most of these are going to get doubled up for strength, so I'm just going to glue them together. Okay, for the base here, I had originally planned on using 2x6, but I found a piece of 2x8, and that'll give me a little more room to fit the motor, and because I'm doubling these up, I'm going to need a lot more room in between the two upright pieces, so this will give me that flexibility. So I'm just going to cut this down to 12 inches. Now I'm going to lay out the holes for the motor and for the rocker shaft. You'll notice that the one of the boards has 2 holes and one only has 1, and that's because the shaft for the motor doesn't go completely through because of the arm that rotates. I can only pass it through one side, unfortunately. Okay, so I have to make another one of these little shafts to fit into the motor. These are pretty annoying because I have to do the final filing by hand, but it's the best way I can find to make these little shafts. I mean, other than a real mill, but I don't have anything like that, so time to file away. Okay, so the parts I glued together are now dry. I added a few screws to reinforce those, Now I'm going to drill the holes that I need for the bushings and for the bolts. Okay, so now that those holes are drilled, I'm going to put in these little bronze bushings in the 1/2-inch holes. I was going to epoxy them in place, but I think it's going to be such a tight fit that I think this will be fine. If they do move, I'll epoxy them later. Okay, so I cut up all my little shafts here. You can see the machined end here for the motor. And I'm just going to do a quick assembly to make sure everything fits and works how it should. And then I'll be able to see where I'm going to put the motor, what sort of motor mount I'll have to make. So I'm going to start assembling this now. Okay, so I've got it all temporarily assembled. I didn't tighten down all of these lock nuts because I'm going to take it apart to paint it before I do the final assembly. But we can see here that once this lock nut is tightened up, the motor should turn this wheel. If it slips at all, I'll put some epoxy in there to hold it. But if I turn it by hand, you can see that it does move the arm. And that is where I'm going to mount the water bottle holder to hold the paint. So that should, in theory, shake the can of paint. So I'm going to, now that this is assembled and seems to fit, I'm going to maybe add another threaded rod here to give it a little more stability. I'll do that once this is cut. And I'm going to put the base on and try to find a location for the motor, and then we can paint everything, stain it, whatever I'm going to do, and then do the final assembly. Okay, so it turned out to be a little wider than I expected, so I wasn't able to use the 2x8 as the base, so I just used a piece of MDF I had left over from racing wheel stand. So that's going to work there. And then I just got a couple of pieces of wood here to make a motor mount. So that's going to fit right there. I'm going to glue these two pieces together, then we can screw them down, then we can actually test it before actually painting. So now I'm attaching the base to the frame. Now I'm going to attach the motor mount. Now we're going to attach the motor. Okay, so as you can see, I added some wires to the motor and some leads to connect to our power supply, which is currently running on the tumbler. And I also made this little panel with a switch that I'm going to add here. I'm just waiting for the glue to dry. So I'm just going to wire this up temporarily. I'm going to grab the power supply and we're just going to do a test before we actually paint anything. Okay, so I've got the power supply over here and I've got everything connected. And I actually connected it to the low voltage side, which is still at just under 6 volts for the rock tumbler, just because I don't know how violent this thing might shake. So I'm going to start it at the lower speed. We'll see how that works, and if that's good, then we'll up it to the 12 volts and see if that's going to be enough to shake up some paint. So here goes. I'm going to turn it on 6 volts. Well, I think that looks pretty good. All right, let's try it at 12 volts. So we're going to double the voltage, which should double the speed. pretty violent. That'll definitely shake up some paint. I think I'm gonna leave it at the 6 volts and we'll see how that shakes, because geez, the 12 volts was pretty violent, and I'm not sure how this thing will survive at 12 volts. But I will know that if we need something shaken up really well, that 12 volts is the way to go. So I'm just going to mount the frame here temporarily. I'll take it back off when I paint, or maybe I'll paint it the same color as the arm, but I'm going to add that right now. Okay, now that that's attached, we'll try it again. That's at 6 volts. I'm going to grab a can of spray paint. Okay, so I brought 2 cans of spray paint. This one's about 3/4 full, so we'll have the effect of the full weight, and this one only about 1/4, so we'll see what the difference in weight makes to the machine. So that just slides in there. I'll turn it on. Works pretty good. Now let's grab a can that's a little more full. Just that holder really grabs on there good. It's actually going to scratch up all the cans. Let's give that a go. This is 3/4 full. That actually runs quite smooth. It's working really nice. Take the camera down and show you guys all the mechanical parts. This is working really nice. I'm going to have to get a clamp meter to double check the amperage. Wires aren't getting warm, so I think we're good for the draw that we're getting from that motor. That's working really nice. Really impressed with that. Okay, so I've got everything painted, dried, and reassembled. I've got it all greased, and now it's basically complete. I decided just to go with the plain primer gray and then like a sparkly gray for the 2 other parts here. I made this little plate for the switch, and now we're going to torture test it. I'm going to throw a couple of cans on here and we'll let it run for a while and see if it survives. Well, that's it for this video. This is the Paint Shaker 3000. I thought this would be a fun little build. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought. As always, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, click the like button. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe. Every time somebody subscribes to my channel, a kitten gets its wings. And thanks for watching.